As the mayor of the town of Clayton, I'd like to call this Clayton Town Council regular meeting to order. I ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we stop to thank you for all the many blessings of this day, and we ask, Lord, now that you be with us as we proceed with the business for the town of Clayton. For it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, sir. Excuse me. We'd like to go ahead and table item 8A one more time to January 6th. So we will not be hearing that item this evening. And we'd like to add a closed session to 12A to discuss an economic development opportunity in accordance with NCGS 143-318.11A4.
All right, I had those noted on our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next is your consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next, under administrative items, will be the Clayton for You.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Tonight, we have the pleasure of bringing you our final episode for the year of Clayton for You. We brought you 15 episodes this year, and we're very excited how they've gone. Tonight's episode mirrors last week's about water. This is where does our electric come from?
In this episode of Clayton for You, we're amped up to explore how Clayton Public Power keeps the lights on for nearly 10,000 homes and businesses.
Public power means the town owns its electric system, providing more local control over services. The focus on reliability and affordability lets Clayton reinvest money from electric bills back into local services. It also means faster repairs and more personalized service.
So why is Clayton in the electric business? Because that's not something that all towns do.
In the early 1900s, power companies focused on bigger cities. So Clayton negotiated to tie into their transmission lines, purchasing wholesale power and building its own distribution system. This brought electricity to residents sooner and established a more reliable system for the town. Today, we buy about 30 megawatts of power from Duke Energy each month. We also have our own linemen who maintain 180 miles of power lines and approximately 1,850 streetlights throughout town. They go through special training to keep things safe, plus they help with emergencies and installation of community decor like Christmas lights and banners.
Clayton Public Power is more than just electricity. It's about supporting the community and keeping dependable service going strong. Thanks for watching and stay plugged in for all the latest news.
That was great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's been a fantastic series. You guys have knocked that out of the park. We're getting lots of compliments and lots of hits. That's great. Up next on the agenda are the advisory board recommendations.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As part of our annual review process, all advisory board terms were evaluated for expiring terms and vacancies. Members with expiring terms were contacted regarding their continued service. Applications for open positions were received and interviews were conducted. And I want to say, in the 6 years I've been here, we've received over 100 applications this time, which is huge. So that's just want to thank all the citizens that took the time to apply. But these are the names that staff, board chairs, council liaisons, and the clerk's office have recommended to you tonight.
Oh, thank you. Any questions for staff?
I was going to.
Go ahead.
Okay. Board of Adjustment for our in-town alternate position, Rich Media. For our Alternate ETJ position, Karen Spicer. For DDA, Valerie Mullins, Stephanie Lanier, Paul Leclerc, Karina Knott, Davin Colclaw, Jennifer Hamilton. For Fire Advisory Board, Jeffrey Stallings, Stacy Turner, Adam Gross, and Keith Herring. Library Advisory Board, Meredith Sewell, Amanda Gothorpe, Amber Rebels Stocks, Katie Tompkins, Victoria Privet, Sarah Chira, and Miriam Harrell. For Planning Board, in-town Ronald Williams, in-town Jason Carter, in-town Deborah Hooker, ETJ Mark Hall, and alternate in-town Tom McKierney. Public Art, Roy White, Dane Martin, Kelly Miller, Joanne Thomas, Adriana Ami, Nancy Crowder, Aaron Clinard, and Lisa Richmond. And for Recreation Advisory, Corey Miller, Charles Counts, Mark Morgan, Greg Ford, and Denise Husband.
Awesome, thank you. All right, those are the recommendations coming to you for all of Town of Clayton Advisory Board.
I make a motion, we approve recommendations for the advisory boards as presented.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the advisory board recommendations presented. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next is a public hearing. It's the UDOTA 3-24 Unified Development Ordinance Text Amendments.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Conrad Olmedo, Planning Director. This is the Unified Development Ordinance Text Amendment. It's the third and final one for this year, the first year of the UDO having been in implementation. As discussed at the work session, this is the third round of text amendments, and what we've done is we've compiled all of these public comments that were provided to us last fall, and this is the final kind of wrap up. It also includes some so we've wrapped up the comments that were given to us last year. It also includes some of the staff improvements that we've been massaging throughout this year. So we have some language that is going to be talking about resource conservation areas, open space set-asides, trees, use standards, refuse recycling container standards, right-of-way with related to curb and gutter, parking lots, signage, various standards with regards to stormwater procedures and agricultural exemptions. So I can, in the interest of time, I can kind of go through this as a quick reminder, and I do have some updates that I wanted to kind of give you more of a focus on at the end of the presentation. Very quickly, resource conservation areas. This was applicant requested, and basically this is allowing impacts to steep slopes to be given a ratio of every square foot of impact will give us 3 square feet of resource conservation area. Just giving us some clarification with regards to with some of the language regarding resource conservation areas. With regards to open space set-asides, every district has a minimum percentage requirement. This modification, this amendment aligns the districts and furthers just gives us some internal consistency with regards to the required percentages of the total site to be dedicated towards open space. So tree protection, some significant modifications in the UDO. With regards to tree protections, this was a consolidation of some parts of the UDO and rectifying some areas with regards to the credits, et cetera, in the trees, tree protection. Staff felt this was a technical clarification just to provide some internal consistency. With regards to use standards, so these are principal uses, as I mentioned before, in the work session, we got principal, secondary, and temporary. So just to come back to this, giving some use-specific standards for manufacturing, medium. Staff felt that we needed to have some standards in this to kind of be a middle ground between the heavy and the light in manufacturing uses. Also, with regards to telecommunication towers, that's another kind of big one with regards to the height, and when would you all see a telecommunications tower come before you? It pretty much anything over 80 foot. Moving on to secondary use standards. So this is, again, some clarification in the UDO with regards to when we would require or not require a zoning compliance permit for many of the secondary uses in town. So home occupation permits would be required, but we're not requiring you to come in for a zoning compliance permit for a playground or for a flagpole, for instance. Another change here, home occupations level 2 would come in as a conditional rezoning versus a special use permit as it was in the prior code. Again, temporary uses, so principal, secondary, temporary uses. A big one here is going to be with regards to just clarification on construction trailers that are on construction sites. So these are typically trailers that are used as an office on site. So we have a process for processing those types of requests. Additionally, another big one is allowing temporary wireless facilities on a site. So this would let us allow a cell on wheels, for instance, to occupy an area for up to 6 months with 4 renewals. These are some use-specific standards, again, with regards to refuse and recycling containers, something that staff felt we needed to have some standards for when we're doing our normal site plan reviews. Another technical kind of update here with right-of-way and curb and gutter when it's required, for instance, regards to driveways. Planning board had some comments on this, so I'm going to be bringing back some additional comments with regards to driveways and number of driveways and future text amendments. So some other clarifications with regards to parking, allowing it permits driveway parking for townhouse developments with rear-loaded driveways. Other was limited to 6 units, more than 6 units. Signage as well. So updating to non-conforming signs, reducing the height of a projecting sign from 9 feet to 8 foot over a sidewalk, and just clarification on other signs as well. Some more clarifications again with regards to just overall standards, lot size, and residential our RMF districts with regards to duplex, triplex, and quadplex. There's a technical clarification on that. Some of the state statutes aligning our terminology with cessation and abandonment, stormwater with regards to providing an access easement to storm control measures that allow the town to have access to that facility. Some additional definitions and some plat certificates as well. With regards to procedures, this was just adding the ability for any resident or property owner within the town of Clayton to submit a text amendment request. Some clarification with regards to zoning compliance permits, with regards to a change of utility, and a transportation impact analysis. This was, we did have a modification that I'll come back to after my next slide here with regards to traffic impact assessments. And as well as number 4, we have another clarification as well that came after our work session. Agricultural exemptions, this is some more clarification with regards to bona fide farms and how we define that. These are the planning board comments that were provided to everybody at the work session. These are all been noted, and we plan to take these at the next text amendment round, which will be in the next winter, early spring of next year. So updates since presenting the work session, traffic assessments, we have modified this language to be as a shall. So when a project does not trigger the 100 vehicular AM, PM peak trips or 1,000 in a day, they were exempt from a traffic impact analysis. An option was there for a traffic assessment, and we have made that a requirement that the engineering director requires a traffic assessment for a project when it does not trigger a traffic impact analysis. The second is regarding resource conservation areas where there was some discretion of the planning director to accept or to not accept basically a state or federal permit with regards to impacts on areas that the state or federal permits allow some modifications to the terrain to allow developable area. So this clarifies that once a state or federal permit is acquired, the deal is pretty much set. The planning director cannot go there and basically counter that permit with an interpretation. Some additional updates that were provided to you probably as of this afternoon. Apologize for that delay where staff is busy working Friday afternoons and over the weekend to make sure that text amendments are as tight as possible. So timeline for applicants to provide an application material right now, we're saying 30 days is what you have before we basically close out your application. So as part of our intake process, we do a sufficiency check. And if you're missing items, you basically will get 30 days. Deficient applications means you've given us an application, we've given applicants comments back from staff, and we put a time limit on when those comments can be provided of 6 months. So if an application is kind of dormant, if you say, we're not getting any kind of internal responses, resubmittals are not being provided back to staff, that application will have expired within 6 months. We've expanded this language to also be included with regards to the permit choice section, just for clarification, as well as abandonment. So that 6-month timeline is also consistent with state statutes. Then some discussion on the planning director. Some of the UDO language was a bit vague in saying a designated staff member. So this is where the planning director will come into play as being that delegated staff member with regards to conducting staff reviews, issuance of staff reports, and distribution of those staff reports in the applications. Planning board recommended the text amendment versions that were prior to these most recent changes. Town council also, we had a work session presentation on the 2nd of December, and we're here before you. Staff is available if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. That would be to approve ordinance 2024-12-02 with the statement of consistency and reasonableness.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2024-12-02 with the statement of consistency and reasonableness. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and motion carries. Thank you, sir. I completely jumped the part about making this a public hearing. I just caught my own arrow. Okay, so I will now open the floor for a public hearing if there's anyone here who wants to provide any comments. Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public session, a public hearing, and pray that I don't make that mistake again. All right. I'm sorry. Thank you.
We were just very excited.
Yeah. Up next is a quasi judicial hearing, 2023-197 SUP NSC Holdings LLC. And this is continued from the November 4th, 2024 meeting.
Hi, everyone, town council members, mayor. So I'm here today to present you the special use permit. This is a quasi judicial process. So per the UDC, the town council acts as a quasi judicial body for any SUP request. So that's why we're here today with the SUP. It's worth mentioning that this request was initiated in 2023. So all the requirements, the language you will see in that presentation, it's all from the UDC. Some facts about that request. This is an application for a special use permit, as I said, for a new building about 9,700 square foot. The uses would be warehouse and some office uses related to the warehouse use, and some limited outdoor storage. The property size is about 1.5 acres. The location is on State Avenue between Guy Road on the north and NC Highway 42 on the south. Right now, the lot is vacant. So the request is about two uses. So one of the uses is warehouse. So as you can see, warehouse use under a B3 district require a special use approval. So that's one of the use for today. Also for the outdoor storage is also one of the requested use under the special use request. There's an office use with that request, but this is already permitted in a B3 district. So we're here today for warehouse and the outdoor storage. I put the definition, but there's a little bit long, so I don't know if you have time to read them. So this is the site plan that we review with the TRC. The first approval was on October 1st. But for the last approval was December 10 because we added some outdoor storage to the request, so that's why. So we're here today to only deciding on the special use permit. So since the TRC already reviewed the site plan, everything was in compliance with the UDC. This is just an aerial map just to show you better the boundaries of the lot. So with the consistency with the comprehensive growth plan, the future land use map indicated high density residential. So because of this, it is non-consistent with the future land use map as it encouraged residential uses and some commercial, but the commercial aspect in this type of land use is just commercial uses that support the residential, like grocery stores. However, as we're going to see on the next slide, the neighborhood uses are all commercial and institutional. So the north, the south, and the east of the studied lot is CRM, which was B3 before under the UDC. Only the west of the lot is a office and institutional, which is a religious institution. Other than that, it's all commercial uses. So we have pest control, vehicle repair, flooring business, and every abutting lots are also under a high-density residential as the future land use. So some consideration for this special use permit. The town council shall make the final decisions regarding special use permits. Special use permits shall address specific finding of facts. The burden of the proof is on the applicant, and these findings must be met for a special use permit to be approved. The third paragraph is just the different option for the approval. We can come back on this paragraph for the decision. So we have 4 finding of facts. If I can say a little summary, it's just that the application complies with safety, zoning, and will not impact adjacent properties in any negative way. So if approved, staff is recommending conditions of approval be placed upon this application that you can see on this slide. So there's 2 conditions. That the development shall be constructed in substantial conformance with the approved site plan, and that any conditions with the site plan shall remain in effect. That was it from me. I know that the applicants are here, so if you have any questions.
Any questions for staff? All right, thank you. And now we'll give the floor to the applicant. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we need to swear everybody in.
With everyone who's going to speak on the side, if you can please raise your right hand and swear that you will tell the truth and nothing but the truth to the best of your ability. Thank you.
Conrad, could you help us enter?
You can use this as a clicker and it'll.
Okay. Okay, great, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. My name is Worth Mills. I work with Longleaf Law Partners here on behalf of the property owner and the applicant. I am joined this evening by Dwight Rowe and Brad Hawk with LKN Mechanical Incorporated, Marty Bizzle, our lead engineer with B&K Engineering, Nick Kirkland, who performed the appraisal analysis and works with Kirkland Appraisals, and Nate Boquin, our traffic engineer, who performed the trip generation study, an engineer with McAdams Engineering. So the property owner and the applicant plan to build an office and warehouse flex space at 129 State Avenue. The proposed limited outdoor storage and the warehouse use are special uses under the old highway business zoning district, hence the request tonight. We had actually offered 5 conditions of approval. This council is free to approve with any number of conditions of approval, but I'll read them briefly. So first, development constructed in substantial conformance with the special use permit as approved by Clayton Town Council and the associated site plan. Number 2, any conditions imposed as part of the site plan shall remain in effect. Number 3, following Town Council approval, an electronic copy of the associated site plan and conditions of approval shall be submitted to the planning department for final approval. 4, the development shall meet all adopted Town of Clayton Unified Development Code requirements, Town of Clayton Engineering and Stormwater Design Standards, and the North Carolina Fire Code and NFPA fire standards, except where specifically modified by the approved special use permit. The development reserves the right to seek any administrative or quasi-judicial relief available under the UDC. And lastly, number 5, the development will utilize LED lighting and external glare shields for all site lighting in order to reduce light leakage at all property lines. So I'll try not to be repetitive, but do want to set the stage. 129 State Avenue, represented by the red star here at the southwest intersection of State Avenue and Guy Road. Site's almost completely forested, and as staff mentioned, we're surrounded by commercial properties and the XRC Church to our northwest. Here's a zoomed out Google image view, just to give you another perspective. Eagle Self-Storage is directly across State Avenue, and there are a litany of other businesses and commercial uses in this sort of triangle that's formed by Guy Road, State Avenue, and Highway 42. Here's a look at the site from Google Street View, and again, you can see completely forested along that property frontage today. As mentioned, this site plan and this request were filed under the Town of Clayton's previous development code, the UDC, and the previous zoning map. And here is a slide of that zoning map. The green star denotes 129 State Avenue. As mentioned, this property, almost all of the properties abutting it were zoned highway business, with the XRC Church zoned office institutional. All of those properties that were zoned for highway business have since been zoned to corridor commercial, similar to this property. And again, the limited outdoor storage, the warehouse use, our special use permits, the office use is permitted by right. Now I'll have Marty Bizzle, our lead engineer with B&K, come up and walk you through the site plan and the building elevations.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. My name is Marty Bizzle with Bassix and Kennedy Engineers, licensed professional engineer in the state of North Carolina, and been with the firm for 23 years. We prepared the site plan that is before you tonight, the site and utility plan that is up on the screen now. Also prepared a vehicle tracking plan to show access in and out of the site, a grading and drainage plan, and a landscape plan along with the site lighting plan. Basically, it's a point of reference. It is behind Rainbow Lanes. I don't know, everybody knows what Rainbow Lanes is. So it fits very well in that commercial development that is there. It's just one of the few vacant lots that is there now. The street, State Avenue is there, along with sidewalk and water and sewer. So our site plan is fairly straightforward. We are providing 23 parking spaces, which is required by the EDO. The outdoor storage has been noted on the site plan in the rear. It's about 1,600 square feet, along with outdoor seating in the back as well. The outdoor storage and the whole back area back there will be screened with an 8-foot opaque wooden fence. And we have the appropriate landscaping that's shown on our landscape plan as well. A couple of highlights, along with the parking spaces that we're providing, there is a two loading docks on the side. One is at grade and one is a 4-foot loading dock. And our vehicle tracking plan shows that is accessible with a 50-foot truck, can get in and out of the site fairly easily. Moving over to our grading and drainage plan, you can see our preliminary drainage layout. Everything would be piped and directed to the rear of the site in a wet pond, which is our stormwater control measure, which would meet all the nitrogen and peak attenuation requirements as stated in the UDO. Our landscape plan is fairly detailed. We have a mixture of vehicular surface planting for the parking lots, street yard plantings, and our Class B buffer or Class C buffer. And we are also taking credit for the 8-foot opaque fence as well. We also prepared a preliminary lighting plan, fairly straightforward. We do request to use LED lighting throughout all of that. And we also did provide a building elevation, fairly straightforward ethos building. And I know the staff report mentioned metal building. It is not, it is ethos. I think that was done early on in the application process, so that is not the case. This elevation on the side shows our at-grade drive-through or loading area, as well as our 4-foot loading dock as well, and a preliminary floor plan. We also have a couple of renderings of what this will eventually look like. As you can see with the landscaping, the parking in the front, and also our 8-foot perimeter fencing in the rear. Just another look from a different angle. And that concludes my part.
So turning our attention to the specific special use permit standards, we'll go through 1 through 4. The first being that the application will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to plans as submitted and approved. So first off, the warehouse use itself is fully enclosed within the building. No open air warehouse storage. The outdoor storage itself is quite small. I believe Marty said 1,600 square feet. It's located in the property's interior with sufficient screening so that cars driving down State Avenue, adjacent properties, operating their businesses there will not have any sort of clear line or clear line of sight into our property and be able to see any of that outdoor storage. Secondly, the site plan provides space for service vehicles to turn around within the property so that these vehicles can enter and exit the property in a forward motion. None of those trucks are ever having to back in or back out, which could cause traffic issues and potentially endanger the safety of pedestrians or other vehicles traveling on State Avenue. As mentioned, we're providing an 8-foot tall fence around the property's perimeter to satisfy the C3 screening requirements and to make sure that the limited outdoor storage is sufficiently buffered. And then lastly, the use will not endanger vehicular or pedestrian traffic along State Avenue, nor will it interfere with adjoining properties' use or adjournment. I'm going to have Nate Boquin come up, traffic engineer who prepared the trip generation study, and he can lay out the expected number of daily trips and peak AM and peak PM trips.
Good evening. My name is Nate Boquin. My address is 621 Hillsborough Street in Raleigh. I'm the traffic engineering lead at McAdams. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the states of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Texas. I'm also certified as a professional traffic operations engineer. We were brought on to review the traffic operations expected for the proposed site. We prepared a trip generation letter that reviewed the area roadway infrastructure and the anticipated trip generation for the proposed site. With the 9,750 square foot facility proposed, we utilized the ITE trip generation manual, in particular the specialty trade contractor land use code, to determine that the proposed development is expected to generate approximately 96 daily trips, 16 weekday AM peak hour trips, which can be broken down to 12 entering and 4 exiting, and 19 weekday PM peak hour trips, again broken down to 6 entering and 13 exiting. To provide some context on these numbers, the town of Clayton requires a traffic impact analysis if a development exceeds 1,000 daily trips or 100 peak hour trips. NCDOT requires a TI if a development exceeds 3,000 daily trips. We are a fraction of this threshold, and as such, we're expected to have a negligible impact on the area roadway network. As part of our review, we also considered the access and location of the proposed site. State Avenue is a local street providing connection between Guy Road and NC 42. As such, State Avenue is not a heavily traveled roadway and is not expected to become a heavily traveled roadway in the future. Based on the latest published information by NCDOT, the R3410 project, which will widen NC 42 to a 4-lane roadway, will maintain full movement intersections for both NC 42 at State Avenue as well as Guy Road at NC 42. Due to the proposed site access and available roadway infrastructure and minor trip generation expected by the proposed development, it is my professional opinion that the proposed use is expected to have a negligible impact on the adjacent roadway infrastructure and will not negatively impact the health and safety of the public from a traffic operations perspective. I'll pass it back over to Worth and happy to answer any questions that you may have after the presentation.
Sir, if you would you sign the sign-in sheet, please? I think we missed the last one also.
Turning our attention now to Special Use Permit Standard 2. The application meets all required specifications and conforms to the standards and practices of sound land use planning and the Town Code of Ordinance and other applicable regulations. As staff mentioned, the site plan has been reviewed by Clayton planning staff and approved by TRC most recently on December 10th. The applicant has addressed all of the staff's comments. The site plan complies with all relevant standards, and we are not seeking any variances or other types of relief to any applicable standards or regulations. Turning now to Special Use Permit Standard 3, the application will not substantially injure the value of adjoining property or abutting property and will not be detrimental to the use or development of adjacent properties or other neighborhood uses. Nick Kirkland with Kirkland Appraisals will now come up and walk you through the analysis he performed on this property.
Good evening. My name is Nick Kirkland with Kirkland Appraisals. I'm a state certified general appraiser in North Carolina and 7 other states. I've been accepted as an expert in property value impacts before this board and other boards like it hundreds of times at this point. I'm just going to keep it brief. The proposed location, we've done an impact study to look at whether or not it would impact the adjoining property values. And the first piece of looking at that is something called an externality, which is looking at what characteristic of the proposed development would cause a negative impact. In other words, if an impact were to occur, why? Is it because it smells bad? Does it look weird? What would cause that? And so as part of that, we've run through the most common types of externalities, and I'll just briefly touch on the proposed development and how it pertains. As far as hazardous materials, there's nothing specific that would cause a negative impact to the neighbors. There's no specific hazardous materials that are planned for the site. There's no specific odor related to the proposed development. As has previously been testified, there's no issues with traffic. The noise will be consistent with other commercial uses in the area and very similar to other allowable by right uses of that site. There's no stigma associated with the proposed development, and additionally, to ameliorate any concerns regarding the appearance of it, there is a large fence and vegetative buffers as is required. So there's no basis for an impact to the adjoining properties, and that is largely due to the fact that they're mostly commercial to flex industrial in nature. And these types of uses are the least likely to absorb an impact. The reason for that is those types of uses are typically valued based on the rent that they can command, and the neighbor developing their property with a use like is proposed here would not impact the rent that you could get on your property next door. It's a lot different when comparing, say, next to residential uses where someone's enjoyment of their property is something of a concern. But to that end, residential uses are a good litmus test in terms of sensitivity, because if nearby homes are selling next to uses like is proposed here, and they're not selling for less, that's excellent evidence for this proposed development not impacting less sensitive adjoining uses. And we've got several examples here, 3 of which are from Clayton and 1 is from Cary. Just briefly, this is right across the street. 2 parcels to the south, there's an outdoor storage component to a self-storage facility. This is just showing, this is a very consistent use with this immediate area. The next one is on North Tech Drive. This is a lot more focused on the outdoor storage, but it shows consistency with this being a typical use, adjoining not just commercial type properties, but also some residential uses here in town. Lastly, I'll spend a little bit more time on this one. This is near Flowers Plantation. This is another storage facility that has outdoor storage as part of it. The property that has the number 110 in the top right, we've done what's called a sale resale analysis on this. Essentially, we looked at when it sold before that adjoining use was developed, and then when it sold after that was developed, and used a federal database to determine the expected appreciation. In other words, we looked at it sold before the use was built, it sold again after it was built. We know how much it should have sold for, how much did it sell for. It sold for, I believe, within 3% of the projected appreciation, and that was over a 20-year time period. So this is strong support for the proposed development not having an impact on the adjoining uses. Again, this is a much more sensitive use, and it's not showing an impact even here. With that, we've also included one example that does have not just adjoining residential uses, but adjoining and a religious use, and that's in the northwest of this. This is on Holly Springs Road in Cary. As you can see, and if you're familiar with that area, that site where the church is located on is really big, and they developed it as close to the adjoining commercial industrial outdoor storage use as they could. I couldn't tell you why they did, but they clearly saw no impact for being next to such a use as this. So with that in mind, it's my professional opinion that the proposed development will not have any negative impact on adjoining property values.
Now turning our focus to the final special use permit standard, number 4, the application will not adversely affect the adopted plans or policies of the town or violate the character of existing standards for development of adjacent properties. So looking, looking at the slide here, the property is within a high-density residential designated area. Of the maps that we found, we are also within what's called a neighborhood center. For the high-density residential description, it's intended for a range of housing types and can accompany neighborhood commercial uses. For the neighborhood center, that designation is intended for neighborhood serving commercial uses with some office, civic, and institutional uses included as well. Because of the type of use that we're proposing, very small limited outdoor storage space, 1,600 square feet, and a warehouse use that is fully enclosed, nothing being visible to the nearby residential properties or even to the immediately abutting commercial properties, we would contend that this project is overall consistent with that future land use map designation, and specifically that neighborhood center designation. But probably most importantly, The proposed uses are completely compatible with the types of existing uses along State Avenue. This is another Google Earth image shown here. And just to list out a few of the uses that are nearby, there's a noose termite and pest control, H&H collision and paintless dent repair, Like New Details, which is a car detailing service immediately to the west of our site, Hatley Construction and Repair LLC, which is immediately east. There are 2 car washes in this graphic. There's 1 self-storage facility. There is Womack Electric Supply. There's a bowling alley, and then there's Carolina Roofing and Vinyl Siding. So plenty of commercial uses and even light industrial uses within the immediate area. And so for those reasons, the proposed warehouse use and the limited outdoor storage use are compatible and maintain the existing character of the immediate neighborhood. That concludes our presentation. We appreciate this council's time and allowing us to kind of go through that project in more detail. I would ask that all presentation materials and any written materials that were submitted be entered into the record, and we are happy to answer any questions that this council has. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Ms. Archer.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I wondered if you could pull back up the slide that had the 5 conditions listed toward the beginning of the presentation. There it was.
There we go.
Thank you. So I guess my question is also for staff. Have these conditions that are listed here been seen by staff, and are those something new to tonight? If they were in the packet, my apologies, I didn't see them.
We said those in September, maybe? I may have Marty Bizzle.
And it could have just been an oversight on my part. My apologies.
Mayor?
Yes.
While they're addressing those, I'd appreciate you addressing the last sentence in number 4.
So the staff, in looking at the recommended conditions of approval, we only have 2, which is the first 2 of those conditions. But then, so what we might want to do is, if the applicant is willing to, are you proposing to add these conditions as part of the application, part of your request?
Yes, sir. I believe Mr. Bizzle submitted these potentially 3 to 4 months ago as part of a submittal. I can let him speak to that.
Yes, they were actually a separate document. They were submitted, as Ward said, probably 3 to 4 months ago during the review.
And the nature of my question was just mostly just that I really was interested in condition number 5, and that is definitely something that I liked seeing there and would support, and wanted to point that out to the rest of council in case they had not also seen that condition. And just to make sure, I guess, to confirm with staff that works. I don't see any reason it wouldn't, and I'm glad to see it's in there. I know we do have a residence located about 500 feet away from there, so I was just excited to see that up on the screen and hadn't seen that previously. As for condition 4, we can answer the attorney's question, and then conditions 1, 2, and 3 seemed pretty standard to me. So if sounded like you were seeking clarification on the last sentence of condition 4.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So the last sentence of condition 4, the development reserves the right to seek any administrative or quasi-judicial, it should say relief, any quasi-judicial relief available under the UDC. So a couple points in that. It does not immediately grant us any potential administrative or quasi-judicial remedies. If I will say that, we have a plan in place. The site plan looks great. The building elevations, I think, look great as well. If for some reason we would need to seek, some sort of parking reduction or some item that is typically handled at a staff level with, little oversight from any quasi-judicial or legislative body, I don't see why that would be an issue. And if we did need to seek quasi-judicial relief, we would again have to come back before town council, make a presentation, and the burden would be on us to demonstrate that we should be entitled to that quasi-judicial relief. So I don't think it doesn't give us any more rights than we already have. It just leaves open the possibility, if we run into something at the building permit stage and we need a slight modification, whether that be something handled by staff or, heaven forbid, it's something big enough that we need to come back before this council, we would have the ability to do that. And it's wholly, it would be a decision either for staff or for the council to grant that relief. I guess one other point too, I put UDC in there rather than the updated UDO, just because that's the code that we were operating under. If it's a question of UDC and UDO, I don't see that would be a problem either.
Are you comfortable taking that sentence out?
Would we still have the right to seek any administrative or quasi-judicial relief?
I think you would.
Then I'd be okay taking it out.
I'm just unsure what it adds.
Sure, that's fine.
Thank you.
Mr. Sims?
I got just a couple little notes here. The loading dock is that for 18 wheelers?
Yes, that is correct. And that's on our vehicle tracking plan. That is what we're indicating there.
Okay. So on the trip generation, is that based upon how many 18-wheelers are going to be coming in and out of there? Is that customers? Is that employees?
That's just the total number of vehicles that would be assumed to have some of those trucks included in there. But the specific breakdown within that of what is trucks versus what's employees versus what's deliveries isn't something that the IT trip generation manual provides.
So we really don't know how many 18-wheelers will be coming down Guy Road onto State Road or whatever, as far as deliveries being taking place daily. Just roughly, I'm not expecting no exact answer.
Yeah, not from an IT trip generation perspective. I don't know if anybody else on the team might be able to add any.
Yeah, really good question. I just talked with our owner, our client, and he's saying 1 to 2 a day would be the max.
Okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right.
Can I be sworn in quickly, please?
Do you so solemnly swear to tell the truth to the best of your ability?
I do. The only thing that I'd add is quickly perusing at the UDC, it doesn't allow for LED lighting. So they would be required to meet current regulations if they opted to go through the LED lighting. Since you cannot, in a permit choice, cherry pick between 2 different regulations, it would have to be one or the other. So I just wanted to make sure the applicant was aware of that if they opted to come in under LED, they would have to modify their regulate to meet the current requirements.
Yes, we were aware that the old UDO does not allow for LED lighting. Our lighting crew said it would be very difficult not to provide LED lighting, so that's why we added that condition so that we would be in compliance by adding LED lighting, which the new code does take that into account now. So
would it be difficult because it's not available?
That is what my staff is telling me. Very difficult. Yeah, and if you'll recall, our condition does also say that we will provide the glare shields. So that is our intent as well.
And sorry, could you go back to that slide one more time? I just wanted to have it up there while we were discussing this. Thank you. Oh, actually, sorry, I meant the conditions. Make sure I saw the wording. Thank you.
And that was our intent. In order to be able to provide the LED, we wanted to add that condition so that we would be in compliance.
Excellent. So it sounds like the condition does accomplish something that both parties want and that it's worded adequately. Is that what I'm getting? Just want to confirm.
I think so.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
With regards, I'm sorry, can we repeat the number 5 condition as with regards to the lighting?
I was just confirming the development will utilize LED lighting and external glare shields for all site lighting in order to reduce light leakage at the property lines. Is that adequate for that condition, and does that accomplish what we need?
I think the challenge is, under the UDC, LED is not allowed. Second, that's challenge 1, and the site plan was submitted under the UDC, is my understanding. I think the challenge 2 is most of the other lighting options are not the norm anymore. So finding probably lighting is going to be a challenge for them as well. My recommendation is to strike it, and then we can work it out behind the scenes, trying to figure out how to do it. Is obviously we've had times where maybe something's not permitted because a new industry standard has changed, and there can just be administrative interpretation or something along those lines. Because a SUP doesn't have the ability to modify ordinance regulations, and in theory, that's what it's asking to do here. But we certainly can have an administrative modification of some sort with an interpretation through the planning department to figure it out. Even willing to waive the fee if that's what it takes to allow them to stay under the old UDC and meet current technology.
So just to make sure I understand, so we're trying to accomplish something that we want, obviously, that's worded. We use LED lighting in our new code. Unfortunately, this came in under the old code, which doesn't accommodate that. But there is a way outside of this process to work that out. And it wouldn't be an undue burden to either party, it sounds like.
It's a little more work for staff, but it's something we're willing to do in order to be something that's legally permitted.
Thank you.
So your suggestion was to strike that, and then you guys work that out?
Yeah, and my recommendation is to strike 4 and 5 and allow 1, 2, 3 as drafted.
And is the applicant comfortable with that, striking condition 3 and 4 at this time, so that can be worked on outside of this process?
Condition 4 and 5?
Yes. I'm sorry, did I say 3, 4, and 5?
We are comfortable moving forward with conditions 1, 2, and 3 as written, striking 4 and 5, and trying to figure out a solution with staff. We definitely want to be good neighbors and, not create any sort of light pollution, so.
Great.
Anyone else? Okay, we have heard from the applicant. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in opposition? All right, no one wishing to speak in opposition, no need for rebuttal, and I will call the council into deliberation.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms. Archer.
Okay. I wanted to thank both staff and the applicant for the information this evening. You both really came prepared and addressed all of the concerns that I have, so I very much appreciate that. The use that is being proposed is consistent with the surrounding zoning, so I have no issues there either. We talked about a lot of different things tonight that make this application work. I mean, the applicant listed things like noise, no odors, no stigma. There's nothing there that's going to affect any nearby residences or businesses. The commercial flex kind of industrial area is already in that area and established, so this just kind of adds on to that. I appreciate the screening and the considerations for containing light leakage. That's important as we're looking at these sorts of infill developments. I also appreciate the improved building facade. That was nice to see as well, so that kind of gives me an idea of what's going in there, and I like the way that looks. So on top of all that, the application does meet all 4 findings of fact, in my opinion. Thank you. Okay. Then at this time, I am prepared to make a motion. And that would be to approve ordinance 2024-11-05 with conditions 1 through 3 as presented in the hearing this evening.
Second.
We have a motion for approval and a second for ordinance 2024-11-05. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, up next, under new business, because our old business item has been tabled to the January 6, 2025 meeting, that's item number 8A. We will jump on to new business, which is the purchase of real property, Robertson Mule Stable.
Mayor, I'm excited to discuss the purchase and sale agreement in front of you all to purchase the historic BM Robertson Mule Co., also known as the Robertson Mule Stable. This is an exciting step for our community. This is an iconic building standing proudly at the corner of 2nd Street and Lombard. For those that are familiar with it, it's served Clayton for over 100 years, and now we have a unique opportunity to honor our past while building for our future. The purchase of this property will be fully funded through the land acquisition reserve that you all established last year, and so that should not impact any of the current or future projects that were already planned. As part of our next steps, we will be having our consultants complete their building assessments and provide us some recommendations how we can maximize the use of this for our community. This demonstrates a commitment to preserving Clayton's rich history while also creating new opportunities to connect and engage as a community. So we're really excited about the opportunity here. We really want to thank the Robertson family for working with us over the last year to be able to make this happen. But with that, I'll ask for my recommendation is to approve.
Thank you, sir. Questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for adoption of resolution 2024-124.
Second?
I have a motion and a second for the adoption of resolution number 2024-124. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Up next is the purchase of real property, Covered Bridge Road property, Fire and Police Department Station number 4.
Me again. Again, another exciting opportunity for the town. We've been working on purchasing a property north of the river to be able to better serve our communities in the Riverwood area. We were fortunate enough to be able to work out a deal that we're finalizing with the intent to close by the end of the year to purchase a piece of land on Covered Bridge Road across from Loop Road. This will give us a location for what would be our 4th police/fire station that will better serve the community on that side of the town. So we're excited for this opportunity as well, and looking forward to getting not 1 but 2 fire/police stations built here by the end of the decade.
That's awesome. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for adoption of resolution number 2024-125.
Second.
I got a motion and a second for the adoption of resolution 2024-125. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Up next is staff reports, beginning with the manager.
All right. Actually, it was mentioned to me a little bit before this meeting that this is actually our last meeting of 2024. So as we wrap up the year, I want to say thank you to the town council for all of your support and leadership through the last year. We've been able to make some big moves, including the 2 approvals that you just did this evening. So we really appreciate that. I want to thank the community. Members of our community are really what make this place a great place to live, work, and just overall enjoy life. Thank you for your support. And last but certainly not least, to the staff, you guys are rock stars. Thank you for all the hard work you do day in and day out around here. Appreciate you keeping the smiles on your face as we keep loading up your plates with all the great things that come to a growing community like ours, but it doesn't go unnoticed, and we really appreciate all that you do. With that, just a quick reminder, as we head into the holiday season, I'd like to hope everyone has a chance to take a break, recharge, spend some time with family and friends, and hopefully come back renewed for a great 2025. Last but not least, just a reminder, we are going to be closed the 24th through the 26th for Christmas holiday break, as well as New Year's Day, also known as Madeline's birthday in my house.
I like it. Thank you. Any questions for the manager? All right, town attorney? No. Town clerk?
No report.
Any other staff? I'll now open the floor for informal discussion and public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please step forward and state your name for the record.
Long time since I've done it here. I'm Bruce Naglin. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm Bruce Naglin. I live at 102 Clay Street in Clayton. And speaking tonight as the Vice President of the Clayton Historical Association. Just a few comments about the Robertson Mule Stable. Over the years, Mr. Sam and his family let the CHA use the stables to share the history of Clayton, which was something they cared about and apparently still do. We'd like to thank them for those meaningful opportunities. We also want to let you know that the CHA is supportive of the town's purchase of the Robertson Mule Stable, also referred to as the Mule Barn. But it's an iconic historic property, and the Clayton Historical Association is enthusiastic that this vital part of Clayton history will be protected and preserved. It's been on the minds of a lot of people in the public for a lot of years about what was ever going to happen to that property and building. And so this is very exciting. And we are willing and able to be part of the discussion regarding the building's adaptive reuse to create public spaces and offer additional assistance in whatever way is possible in the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Anyone else? All right, no one else wishing to speak. I'll close the public comment and turn it over to council for comments. Mr. Sims.
Yes, I just want to echo our town manager's comments that this is the last meeting of the year. It's been 3 years now, and I am truly, truly grateful for the staff, our fire department, our police department, our operations department, and our administrative departments. The town of Clayton, watching what has grown and what has come to pass, and especially this last year. Really proud of the job that everyone's done. And as we go into the holidays here, I hope everybody enjoys their holidays, enjoys one another, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I'd like to echo exactly what Councilman Sims said, but I'd also like to add, I'd like to thank our town manager for your leadership, under which none of these things would have happened. I also like to thank our town attorney for his stellar advice and wisdom and leadership. Thank you.
Absolutely. Anyone else? Ms. Williams?
Yes, I'd like to say a few words to encourage the community, staff, and each member of this board. We want to say these words to you. May the love of the season fill your heart. The peace it brings give you hope, and the joy we share increase your strength. We wish you joy, peace, and happiness for the season. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Archer?
Well, that is a hard act to follow.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I will just say happy holidays. I'm also so grateful to be up here, and I wish everyone the best. Thank you.
Well, I certainly, first of all, want to acknowledge the Clayton Rotary Club for an amazing Clayton downtown, small town Christmas parade. It was amazing on Saturday. And to see so many people out and to see so many people want to be a part of the Clayton Christmas Parade, it was pure magic. And I also want to thank our staff and everybody. You know, it takes a lot of people to put on a parade. And, you know, this year, I noticed that, you know, extra security measures were put in place to make sure everybody, young and old, was safe and secure and could enjoy the parade along the parade route. I appreciate that so much. And I do want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. You know, this year has been an amazing year for the town of Clayton, and a lot of time and effort and energy has been given by all, including our staff, our employees, but also our citizens and our volunteers, with a commitment to continue to make Clayton the premier community for active families, as well as a great place to work and play and raise your family. Now, in 2025, Clayton will still have just as many opportunities to explore and create all things Clayton, all while moving Clayton forward. You know, Clayton, North Carolina is my hometown, and it's still the greatest place I know. Thank you. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Motion to go into closed session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Please clear the room. All right, is there any other business that needs to come before this board? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good night.